Welcome to the BrandBar Happy Hour Chat, everyone. My name is Angela St. Julien, and I am fortunate to be joined by Tiffany Marler and Bruce Marler today. Tiffany is the Director of Web Development at LocalTek, where she and her team creates attractive and easy-to-manage websites for their customers. She's also the founder of the delicious blog MadeUpMeals.com, which she launched in January of last year. Bruce Marler is the founder of the online marketing and design firm LocalTek.com, which services small businesses in Missouri, and he's also the VP of Technical Sales at Cafe X, where he leads the sales engineering team globally and sales for the western and central part of the U.S. Cafe X focuses on delivering web RTC-based collaboration tools to Fortune 500 companies. Thank you both so very much for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you.
Very glad to be here.
So we're excited, you guys, because anyone out there who's having any trouble with WordPress, we're about to get a crash course right now. Bruce and Tiffany are going to take us through it. And actually, the two of them had been at NamesCon, and we might have missed that, so we're going to get it right now. We're going to see the slides, and we're going to actually see a demonstration. So I'm going to hand it over to them right now.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. Let me go ahead and bring up the slides here. I'm assuming you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Can everyone, Angela, Tiffany, you can see the introduction to WordPress?
Yes, I can. I can see.
Very good. So as Angela was saying, what we're going to do here is kind of do I'll say an encore of the NamesCon session where we talked about WordPress and how to rapidly get a site going. As luck would have it, directly after NamesCon, we actually had a specific need to actually use exactly what we had been teaching at NamesCon with the Credit.club site that we launched over a weekend directly after NamesCon. So what we're going to do here is go through these slides, but at the same time have some interactivity and really go look at the Credit.club website and see how we built that rapidly over the time frame we had after NamesCon, and show you specific examples of what we did, how we picked themes, and how we set it up, just so you can see in practice exactly what we talked about on the slides, because we all know that people don't just like to look at slides. So looking at that, LocalTek, a little bit about us. First off, we're not the most formal people in the world. We like to have fun, so keep this interactive. We've been doing this for 20 years. I've been working on doing some level of development or domain investment for, since it was the mid-90s. LocalTek itself focuses on doing business websites. We have hundreds of small business customers throughout Missouri, and we've done development for some of the largest domains and portfolios that you could find. We focus a lot on SEO, but also we focus a lot on mobile development as well, and that's something that we've seen a shift in. And as you think about doing WordPress, one of the things you're going to hear us talk a lot about is making sure that your site and the theme that you choose is responsive for mobile environments, because we all know that if your site's not ready for mobile, then you're missing out on the mobile-first world that we're really living in today. Anytime we build a site, as much as we're going to focus on WordPress here, everything we do focuses more on the marketing approach. Because fact of the matter is that, the fact that we can teach a class in an hour that kind of gets people started with WordPress tells you that the technical sides of development are really being taken care of now with really good tools like WordPress, but really making sure the marketing side has been thought about as you're selecting themes, as you're selecting content, and those type of things has become very important. And as we talk about this, you'll find that. So why WordPress? If you look at the internet today and you look at the number of sites using WordPress, it's, depending what study you look at, it's around 23% of all the sites on the web and all the traffic on the web today is going to some sort of site that's powered by WordPress. That's an amazing growth rate for the platform. It's truly amazing, and that's why we as a company really started focusing on using it to develop our own properties, but also develop our customers' properties, because it is an established tool. You're not working with something that you don't, that there's no one fixing bugs, that there's no one innovating on it. It's something that's being innovated on every day, and that's a very important thing to think about as you look to start to develop sites. There are thousands of plugins and widgets and themes to allow you to customize what you want. I think what's important to point out here when you start to think about the plugins and widgets, and we'll talk more about what those are here in a minute, is that if you think of it as a feature, it's very likely someone's already created a plugin of some sort for it, or a widget or a theme that has that functionality in it. So when you think about WordPress, a lot of people mistakenly think about WordPress as a blog platform, or think about it as a very simple site. You know, I'm going to build a WordPress site, it's very simple. And that's not the case. WordPress powers some of the largest sites on the web, and at the same time you can do everything from e-commerce sites to knowledge-based sites to complete geo-themes with a mobile app connected to it, all based on WordPress, all based on plugins and themes. So keep in mind, when you think WordPress, don't think you're limited once you start to just a blog-like site. It's easy to operate even without coding skills. We know that most people have no interest in learning how to code. So what we're going to talk about today really is going to require no code as we look at it. Tiffany will be happy to pitch in here in a minute on her thoughts on all that, because the fact of the matter is she tries to develop all of our sites with minimal code input, because once our customers get them, they're not going to have any interest in writing code. They need to have a site that they can work with and manage once they have it. And there's vast amounts of support out there on YouTube and everything else for WordPress. Tiffany, you want to make any comments there?
I agree. Coding isn't necessarily required, although useful in some situations with WordPress. But you know, because I don't come from a computer science background either, I'm just the same as everyone else that's trying to learn how to use WordPress now. That was me 5 years ago. So everything that I've been able to accumulate as far as my knowledge is absolutely doable for anyone. And that's one of the reasons that WordPress, the reason why I'm doing what I do now, is because I saw the value in being able to manage a website on your own, whether it be for yourself, for your business, whatever the case may be. Being able to manage it on your own without having to have those coding skills is a huge value for most people trying to do, you know, what we do, or just for their own personal business. So I totally agree. Yes, there's definitely ways to do it without coding. There's almost always a way around having to learn code for WordPress. And I know that's terrible, but you know, if you're somebody who doesn't have that background, it can get really frustrating really quick if you're trying to use some other content management system or some other platform to start building a website. It can get really complicated in a hurry, and this is a way to kind of look extremely professional and extremely put together. Like Bruce said, it powers some of the largest sites on the web, and this is a way that you can do the same without having to have you know, a team of 14 developers developing it for you.
That's definitely a relief. I personally break out in a sweat whenever I hear the word coding.
Yeah, and there's obviously many people that do. I love it, although I don't have all the knowledge I would like. So having some knowledge, but WordPress put together, it works out fine.
Good. Okay.
Well, I'll continue here. So I know the first step everyone worries about is, where am I going to put it? How am I going to get this site even up? Where's it going to set? A few things, really I'll say one thing here. Most good reputable hosting companies have some sort of one-click or two-click install for WordPress. So the first thing that you need to know is you don't need to go to the WordPress site and download the software and learn how to install MySQL database software and PHP and all that. You don't have to worry about any of that. And I want to point out we have no affiliation business-wise with the people we mentioned here. So these are, you know, HostGator and Name.com just happen to be people that we actually use ourselves. So that's why they're mentioned here. But when you go look and start to do the planning for launching your site, you're probably going to go find a hosting company that's going to charge you a few bucks a month, and probably, you know, 10 bucks a month. And what you're going to find is if you look at Name.com, HostGator, Bluehost, DreamHost, they all have one or two click install for WordPress. We use that ourselves. I mean, as much as we can sit there and do the hand install and manual install, just before you even start thinking about what content you're going to put in, just verify they have WordPress installed, and you'll find even the most non-technical of people can go in and hit those buttons and install it right away. So don't get scared about that initial part. If you work with a good company, they're going to have WordPress already on there. So how do you typically do it? And this is one part that is consistent across whatever hosting platform you're using typically, specifically Name and HostGator. You're going to be logging into your hosting control panel. cPanel is what most of them are using. It's really and we're going to go into more of the detail in WordPress after this, but kind of the hosting part here, you'll locate the installer. It's usually called Quick Install or Softaculous. There's a couple others out there. Fantastico is another one. It's literally as simple. They have a WordPress button. You'll fill in like your username and password that you choose, and then you click Install. And we're not even showing that screen here because it's that consistent between them. But it literally is a click, input your name and password, and it installs it on your domain on the hosting platforms. And after this, we'll get contact information, but feel free to reach out with questions if you ever have any questions on doing that part. But it really is that straightforward. So now we'll get into the WordPress components, though. So first off, and we're going to talk to slides here, but we're going to bring up an actual site here in a second. One of the first things we do is immediately after installing, before we look at themes, before we look at anything else, we start looking at the settings, and like I said, I'll show you in a second. There's some very specific things within the settings that you need to set. One in particular I always point out for search engine optimization reasons, and really just usability in general, is if you go to Settings, Permalinks, and then you can set how you want your links to read. So instead of being some gibberish of, localtek.website / !522 post, you can say use the post name of the article you're putting up. And what that means is if your article is how to repair your credit, it'd be localtek.website / how-to-repair-your credit. And little things like that seem very minor, but once you launch your website, it's really tough sometimes to go back and change things like that. So anytime you're starting to build your site, take the 15 minutes in the beginning, and I'm going to show you, like I said, the specific things, to do the most basic of configuration, and it will save you hours of pain later on. There's another very important setting that literally says discourage search engines from indexing the site. It's very important to check and make sure that is unchecked, because if not, your site is basically going to be hidden from the internet, and anytime somebody's searching for your domain or for the content on your site, it's basically hidden and Google's never going to index it. At one point, WordPress literally had this on by default, and there was customers of ours who had went in and made some changes and never went back and unchecked that after they had made changes on their site. So this is a very important one. Also, other important things, there's themes that we're going to show you, and once you install your theme, little things like telling it, hey, what pages do I want on my site? Do I want a home page? Do I want a blog page? Those things need to be configured. And I'm going to go ahead and show you some of this now, so I'm not just talking to a slide here. Any questions while I bring up the site? Check. Okay. Tiffany, you want to add anything?
No.
Okay. So if you look here, this is actually, and I'm assuming you can see my browser, this is actually the credit.club website. I should say the infamous credit.club website after this past week. This is actually a site that we took exactly what we had been teaching at NamesCon, the exact same slides you see here. We happened to buy the name on the way home from NamesCon, and then over that weekend, while lovely Tiffany had 102.5 fever in bed, I actually took the time to start developing a site on credit.club. What you'll see here is the dashboard for WordPress once it's installed. And I was talking about various things like settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click settings here. What I always do right after we're logged into WordPress, and you can see credit.club wp-admin is how you log into the administrative side of the site. The first thing I do is I go to settings, and then I start going down each one of those. In this case, I've set a site title, a tagline, and I'll show you why it doesn't necessarily match what's up here in a second. But you can see you start setting your site title and taglines. That site title is basically what's going to be up here in this bar if you don't have other plugins and it's overriding that. You're also going to set little things like what is the address of your website, which may not necessarily match what the exact URL of your website is. Right now, you don't need to worry about that. Don't even think about what that could possibly mean and why it would be different. This is where you set your domain. Make sure you set up an email address that you will get the administrative messages on. It's important, especially if you're approving comments and things like that. So you're going to set that. And you'll see here there's just various settings you can look through. Under writing, there's typically not a lot I modify here for a basic install. Literally all this is default. Reading, this is where we were mentioning a second ago in the slides. When you come into this, you can set what your front page looks like depending on the theme. So you can select, I want it to have my latest post, which is typically a blog-like theme. Like if you go to brucemarler.com, you'll see that it's just my latest post that's showing that front page. But if you're building a non-blog site, you're building an actual website that's going to have featured content and more of a business-like feel and functionality, you're probably going to have some sort of page that you're featuring on that front page. You're not necessarily just going to have your latest blog post because you're not building a blog. So this reading settings is really for reading the website, and that's where that's at. Discussion is also an important section. This is very useful if you're running a blog or if you're running a blog partly on your business site. You can see there's default article selections. So I can say if I link to something from a blog post I'm working on, then I can say notify that site that I've linked to them. So then they get a notification that somebody's linked to them, and they can go approve that, and that'll show up in their comments. It may show up in their comments or not if they choose to, and that's this allow link notifications from other blogs, pingbacks and trackbacks. Also allow people to post comments. You may choose that you don't want to allow comments because you're really doing posts based on business products or something like that rather than blog posts. So you can say allow or don't allow comments. But you can see here just the various options that you may want for people that are coming to your site and interacting with the content you have. Here I have it emailing me anytime someone posts a comment or a comment is held for moderation. But if I have approved a comment before, then go ahead and approve that comment if that person has had an approved comment before. So that's the discussion settings I typically go through. Any questions in particular that anyone has on discussions or the other settings? I'm sorry?
Permalinks.
Yeah, that's the next step here. You can also, and as Tiffany was mentioning, and this is the very important one to me, seems like the most simple one, but this permalinks right here from a search engine optimization standpoint, very important. When you first come in here, it'll be set to default. And you can see, like I said, it's kind of gibberish, right? It's the domain name, question mark, P for post, equals, and then the number of the post, which could be some number. For me, I just like to set it to post name. And then what I can do is it'll have the post name, which gives a minor but some level of SEO benefit, and like I said, not a large, but some level, which is always important. But I think also from a user standpoint, it increases the usability, and I think people start configuring things and thinking about all the technical aspects of what they're building, when in reality they need to think about the user and how the user's interacting with it. And I think that gets left out sometimes. So little things like having your URLs readable or not is very important. So I think there was a question I see here. Yeah, so go ahead, Tiffany.
Max, my question or my answer to you is that's great if you're running a blog type site, having your post name with the year and then the post name, that's totally fine. It may not be completely necessary to have the year in there if you're doing more of a business type theme or a business type website like lawn care, whatever it is. Just having the about us, contact us services, would help to have that without the year for those type of pages. It just depends on what you're trying to do with the WordPress site, and that's one thing that's great about it is you can do so many different things. So it just depends.
And I think there was another question back a little bit too on if Credit.club was using WordPress specifically, and yes, Credit.club was built completely with WordPress at this point, although there are some plans for it already that will be extending some other features that won't be WordPress based around some of the mobile app development things I want to do with it. So right now though the knowledge-based component is completely WordPress based. So okay, that's the basic settings that we hit in the very beginning. And I think we had some comments there that we answered. Also, I typically set a category base and a tag base. Those I consider more minor, but it is good for organization. I will say Google cares less about those these days on search engine optimization, so you don't have to overthink those. If it's your first time building a site, that's less key in my mind. People may argue that, but from the experience we've had with the sites we built, that's become less important over time. So that's the basics. Other things to be aware of, and I think this is key as, and I think it's something that people miss out on sometimes, is with WordPress, there's the concept of post and pages. And it's probably the most basic concept of WordPress, and I think it confuses a lot of people, so I think it's good to address it here. So on WordPress, a post, the way I would describe that for people if they're just getting started and they've not been using it a lot, is a post is more active content. Look at it like news or a blog post or press release type information, more frequently updated content. So if you're on a blog, you're actually typically looking at a post. Where pages I look at is more static content. So a contact us. If you're doing a business site, maybe it's product pages. You're probably going to have several products, so you're going to have product pages. So I typically use pages for more, I'll say, featured pages that are maybe more long-term use pages, where posts are something I'm more updating more frequently, or more blog or news type content is the best way to look at it. So as you're thinking about your site, it's very important to think about what type of content you're putting in and how would that be used, so you don't start building a bunch of content in posts that you really wanted it to be in pages, right? And I've got to be honest, that some themes force you to use one over the other. So as you pick a theme to use for your site, make sure you kind of look at how it works so you understand or using posts or pages for various content, because there's times that you may start putting in some content and determine that, you know what, I meant that to be a post instead of a page. So just something to be aware of there.
If you do happen to make that mistake, it is correctable by just copying and pasting your content into the page. It's just a step you certainly want to avoid if you can help it.
Is there an easy way when you're looking at the themes to determine or distinguish which ones are more for posts and which ones will allow you to do pages?
Most of them are pages. And most of them let you switch back and forth. I think the ones that Bruce is referring to would be on elegant themes that we'll talk about here in a little while. Elegant themes allows you to put content on the home page with using a post or a page, but there's also a setting that says use pages. So if you're creating like all of your services, I'm going to keep using lawn care. If you're putting services in for irrigation and lawn mowing and landscaping, then you could say use pages, and it will use that content to put on the home page instead, which is in the basically theme options settings. So you can go in there and review that before you get started, because many of the upgraded themes for WordPress now have a little theme options section, which I'm not sure if Bruce's does or not on credit.club. I'm not sure if it has that little section, but a lot of them do have that. You can kind of read through there what your different options are before you get started.
Yep, and I'm going to show that here shortly. That's exactly right. And I think that's one thing to understand as people start building WordPress sites is when you look at it, people initially thought, oh, it's a blog platform, it's a content management system. But when you start looking at these themes typically have more options than WordPress itself when you start to develop on it. And so it's very easy to pick a very full-featured theme, and then it has additional advanced settings that you can configure on the theme for the features you're wanting to add. And I will show that here shortly as part of that credit.club install. So some other things moving forward here is settings. Basic things, and since I know this is an intro thing, we're going to go over a lot of basic things here, and if there's more advanced questions, we're happy to answer those too. Little things. Delete the Hello World post. You're going to go in. You can go to Post, and you're going to want to delete the basic sample content that's already in there. There's typically a Hello World sample page and a Hello Ollie plugin. Delete those. I'll show you where those are held here shortly. But just make sure you kind of clean things up so somebody doesn't go to your website. You've spent this time building this nice site. You went and bought content. You got this nice theme, and then they go in and see that the Hello World post that is installed by default is still sitting there. It's just unprofessional. So it's good to just go back and delete those. And by the way, there are times that, you know, I do have to go back and think about that too, because it's a very easy thing to start building and you're like, oh, I have to go back and delete that. But it is good to always double check yourself. Tiffany will tell you I tend to be the stickler on going back and looking 10 times at the little things and being all over it. So it's good to get in that habit, although it annoys people. Choosing a theme. I'm going to hit it over and over again right now. It is a mobile-first world. We love our domains, and the reason we're all sitting here is it's likely we're invested in domains at some level, and those are all very web-focused. That said, it is a mobile-first world, and you need to think about how your site reacts in a mobile environment. So when you're picking a theme, and we'll go to some of the theme sites here in a second, you need to think about, is it mobile responsive? Make sure it's listed, or make sure that theme company has something specifically on it that says it's a mobile responsive design. Also, when you're choosing a theme, don't just randomly select a place on the web and say, hey, look, I got this theme for $10. Make sure there's good reviews, good documentation, and good support. Typically, that's not included with a free theme or a very low-cost theme. It's very much worth the $50 or $70 or $80 for a good theme or monthly support or theme support or subscription, because the time you're going to spend trying to troubleshoot bugs, and there will be bugs, will end up costing you more in time than it does for that $50 or $80 for a good quality theme. So that's right, Angela, you're exactly right. It definitely gives you access to your customers no matter where they're at, and typically they have their phone in their hands. There's thousands of options. You need to think about what site. It has to be more than just look good, right? You have to think about what the functions are like in the and to make sure that theme matches what you're trying to accomplish. Credit.club, prime example. My whole concept with Credit.club was a knowledge base. So a knowledge base doesn't need to have big flashy pictures and parallax design and all these, you know, kind of build outs of different graphics and everything. It needs to be all about the content and searching for it and searching through it. So you need to think about, when you're building something, what are you trying to accomplish, and don't necessarily get caught up in the visual impacts. You need to think about the context of the user using the site. Yeah, so I did see that earlier today. As of today, Google's starting to send notifications to people that do not have mobile responsive sites, and they'll get something in their webmaster tools that they need to correct that. I'm going to go ahead and flip out of the slides again here. And first off, Tiffany mentioned here that mobile responsive, you can actually check, even without a cell phone, you can see here's the full Credit.club site. If I move my browser, you will see the site, it goes to its mobile responsive look and feel. Oh. So just by moving my browser, I can see that it's responsive from a sizing standpoint.
The navigation.
Yeah, you see all this. So that's something, a good way to check it. So other things, we talked about theme companies, and this is amazingly where a lot of people get caught up, is they're like, what am I going to use? Where do I even go buy a theme? We pretty much stick with 3 different companies. Elegant Themes, right here. And once again, if you go to my blog, there's an affiliate link, but right now I can tell you, other than there, we have no business relationship. This is just someone that we absolutely have determined gives us great support, and we use them a lot for our customers. So Elegant Themes is a really good one. They have a ton of themes and different types of options. Also, and even though Bootstrap is a topic for another day, I use Wrap Bootstrap. Matter of fact, the theme for Credit.club came from Wrap Bootstrap, and they had a knowledge-based theme that I liked, and this is a really good place we found. And also ThemeForest, which I don't have up right now, but ThemeForest is another one. You can Google it. It's another very good place. And what's good is you can see the developers' reviews. Yeah, exactly, Adrian. The support on Elegant Themes is really good. Tiffany lives by it. But you can see on ThemeForest, you can see developer reviews, and you can actually see in the chains how they respond to their customers and decide if you want to do business with them or not. So just some concepts there. Also, a little tip and trick to be aware of, the logo here. I am not a graphic designer, I'll tell you now, but when I'm rapidly building something, I do like to have decent looking logos. So if you're looking for logos, go to 99designs.com. Just a little tip here: as you're picking your theme and you're picking your layout, it's going to be important to think about what your logo is going to look like. And 99 Designs has their contest you can pay more money for logos and have a contest to have people design it. But if you go to 99 Designs, down here at the bottom, there's something called ready-made logos. And you can sit here and search for different types of logos, and for $99 you get a pre-built logo. And then if you want to have exclusivity to it, you can actually pay an extra fee. But you can go here and search and find logos. Just a little tip. It's amazing. I'm surprised with the people that are not aware of this. So there's a tip, 99designs.com. Really good to help you get moving fast. And Tiffany will tell you, I'm not a graphic designer. I require 99 Designs.
And did you say pay a little extra for the exclusivity?
Yes, you can have it exclusive only to you after you buy it. And I don't know the fee. I think it's an extra $199.
Yeah, I think it's like $250 maybe, something like that.
So it's just something to be aware of. And if you're not familiar with them, I highly recommend, if you're trying to do something rapidly, it's a great service. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I've said a lot of words there. I'll open it kind of for questions. Anything specific, Tiffany, you want to bring in, or Angela, question?
Yeah, I was mentioning on the chat that on ThemeForest, there's thousands and thousands of options. It's not like Elegant Themes, which has just their themes. It's basically a store for any developer to put their theme on. So there's many options, which gives you a lot of great options, but you definitely need to watch the ratings, how new it is, how many people have purchased that theme before, and also check out the support, which I do on every theme before I buy it for a customer, is make sure that they have support and they have been updating it. If they launched the theme in 2013, haven't touched it since then, and you can see people that post on there, hey, you have a pretty good indication that there's zero support for that particular theme. And if it's been purchased 10,000 times, and you can see that they've got great support, 5-star ratings, or 4 stars, that's probably great to go with. They have all different kinds of categories. So if you're looking specifically for a medical theme, if you're looking specifically for a shopping cart type of theme, if you're looking specifically for a blog, they have all of those in one place for you to be able to search through. And at NamesCon we brought up ThemeForest, and I actually showed you what it looked like to download it. I warn everybody, because I've made this mistake before. When you do purchase a theme from ThemeForest, there's your little button that says download. It has a little arrow next to it, and if you click that, there's a drop-down menu that says download all files or download installable WordPress file only. Oh. Don't try to install the all files zip folder, because it will give you an error when you try to install it in the themes. Make sure you do the installable WordPress file only. If you're just starting out and want to get a good feel for WordPress, I would highly recommend using Elegant Themes. Elegant Themes is beautiful and simple to use, and as we mentioned in chat, several of us have a good experience with Elegant Themes, and they have great support too. They have support per theme, so if you're using SimplePress, you can go to that section of their support and read the forums, and most of the time, just by reading the forums, because it is so popular, you can find your answer without having to put in an extra ticket and take more time to do that. But Elegant Themes is fantastic to use. It's very simple, easy to read, easy to navigate. The logic makes sense, which I know that's funny, but there's theme developers from all over the world that logic may be written one way here and different ones here. Muffin Group on ThemeForest is another theme developer I highly recommend, with fantastic support, and it's a drag and drop builder, which is very popular right now. It's a drag and drop WordPress themes where you're just plugging content in by pulling it over in different shortcodes. Basically, you don't even have to type in the shortcode. Basically, it's already there. So if you want an accordion here, if you want an image here, you're just basically building a page by drag and drop. Muffin Group is a fantastic theme developer for that one. No affiliation. I just know them and use them as often as possible. Like the rest of our things, this is just stuff that we actually use.
And did you
And
say that?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Did you say that all of the elegant themes were mobile responsive, or?
I think they are. I think any of their newer ones are, and I think they added that maybe a year and a half ago. They are mobile responsive. Divi, yes, Dan. Divi is definitely mobile responsive. I've actually used that theme as well. And it's a new one, and it's a drag and drop builder as well, like we were talking about with Muffin Group. It's great. It's if you're just starting out, I would maybe you just use one of the simple ones first and then go to Divi. Divi's great. It's highly customizable. There is nothing you can't do with that theme. But maybe just start with one of the little ones, like Simple Press at first, and then you can step up to Divi.
Okay, so Divi is a little more advanced.
A little bit, yes.
And that's what you'll find. Some of the themes are very purpose-built, and some are very much, here's all the things in the world you could possibly want to do, and we're going to let you build from it, and more advanced, and it ends up taking some time to get your head around how it works before you start to use it. So that's one thing to keep in mind is like Tiffany was saying, some of them are very purpose-built, very simplistic in their functions, and when you're just getting started, those are really good ones to use. And Divi is one that we've looked at before, and I know she's used, and it literally you can do anything you want to with it. There was a question about affiliate and how to go about getting, like in this case, Nora, I think, yeah, you were asking Experian or Credit Karma, for instance, on affiliate links. So up front, I've left it at AdSense, specifically because I actually, in this case, I'm going to make calls directly to some vendors that I want to work relationships with. And actually, funny enough, Credit Karma is one. But typically, I would go to CJ.com, Commission Junction, where most of the large affiliate programs are run from, and there are things I do through CJ.com, and I would go there and apply for the affiliate programs. With it being a new site, I don't necessarily want to do that, because when they see it's a new site that's only a few weeks old, they may not approve you in the beginning because it is such a fresh site. And I'm thinking longer term in the site, so I don't necessarily want to just do a bunch of blanket request for approval and get rejected. Kind of the other side of my world, what I do, I spend a lot of time talking to financial companies, and so I have some concepts of things I know they're working on that I would like to make direct calls to some of these companies and have direct relationships with. So that's one way, but like I said, CJ.com is standard affiliate programs.
Well, to follow up with that, how old do you think the site would need to be in order to get your approvals?
It depends. Sometimes it's not just approval, it's the level of results you want from the programs you're getting into. I've had some really good results even with sites just a couple months old. They had really good rankings, and I targeted my message towards the affiliate programs for the approval. It's thinking about it. If you put one line in your affiliate program kind of application or site description, they're not going to think you're taking the time to really build a real business out of the site. So it's not always just the amount of time. It's the professional. Like if they go look for the site, did they find it, right? Do you have an Alexa ranking yet, right? Some of these people actually look at statistics like that and determine do you have traffic to even warrant their attention. So it really depends on the site and what you're trying to accomplish with it.
Right, that's good.
Okay. Yeah. So some things I know, like I said, I'm not saying completely structured with the slides here, but I think Tiffany hit on something important that is important here. So as we talked about earlier, we talked about posts and pages, which we'll go into. We talked about settings, those type of things. But other things here like the theme. We keep talking about all these custom themes. And you will see here in the WordPress dashboard, I actually have a section called Theme Options. No problem at all, Nor. And you'll see within this, there's different configuration parameters. These are not part of the standard WordPress configuration. There's things within this that are very specific for this theme. So many of the themes have those configuration parameters specifically for themselves that can be just as expansive as WordPress itself. So you can see in this case, I have the logo and everything gets uploaded here, and I edit my copyright text, and I put a link to what is the company name. I always like to say I own the interwebs, right? So that makes that fun. But this is where I can edit that. Styling, I can come in here and figure out what do I want the site to look like. Left or right, sidebar. what do I want link colors to be. So those type of things are all done within this theme options. All the themes may look, well, if you're using elegant themes, most of this configuration is going to look the same for each theme at some level, but each theme, depending on the developer, could be different. But it's just things to keep in mind. It's very simple. I don't, and Tiffany will love this part, I don't have to go into the CSS to actually edit code to change things like the link colors or the color below the background, right? I don't have to go into the code to edit those things. I can click a button and pick a color chart and pick what color I want. There are some things I wanted to do though, like specific sizing, how I wanted the logo to fit. If someone has that level of ability and they want to go in and edit those things, most of them do give you a way to go in and edit and do custom CSS stuff if you want to do it. But for the most part, you're not going to have to do that.
Yeah, elegant themes actually in their support section, because I have had to do that quite a bit. Make sure that the logo, like if the logo by default in the center, but that just doesn't work out for your logo if you need it on the left. On elegant themes, you can actually go find that exact CSS that somebody else had to do the same thing and copy and paste it into that section. So it's nice to have that custom CSS section, which many of the recently released themes also have. So people have been putting that in as a default to have that section right there. Now, yes, Bruce will show you that there's other ways to do it, but it is nice to have that. Elegant Themes is very good about having an extensive knowledge resource and library on each theme about how to do specific things just like that. So it really does help the novice put together something the way they want it to look without having to go to the editor to do that.
So other things on this theme in particular, unless there's any questions there, so you can see other things. And I know some people start getting scared, and that's kind of overwhelming when they start thinking about the themes and the layout. What are you going to put where? Little things like this. How do I fill this in? These three boxes right here on the screen, and make these buttons click. And if you've not developed before, or even used WordPress, that might be overwhelming. But for us that do it every day, we kind of take it for granted. But I think they make it very simple on these themes typically, where you can see, like in this one in particular, I have 1, 2, 3 features that I'm pointing, that we call these feature boxes in this case, and you can see here I can select each one, and then I can configure, or say I want the title to be this, and put in the text, and then put in where I want it to, what link I want it to go to, right? And then I hit save, and that edits that box. So when you start looking at the layouts, realize most of the themes have made it very simple to do things like that. Don't get overwhelmed when you're like, how am I going to build this layout? How am I going to figure out how to put this text in here? When you just kind of stop and step back a little bit, and you take the time to go through the configuration parameters first rather than just jumping in, 15 minutes of just wading through the things typically will make you realize you don't have to be technical to start to do these things. It's not necessarily a technical process. It's more of a design process of where do I want this content to go, rather than how am I going to write the code to get it there. And once you take that technical kind of piece off the table and focus on just where you want things to go, it really makes the whole building process a lot easier. But that is one major tip, and I probably should have said that in the very beginning. If you were to do anything as you start to build your site, before you start putting any content in or putting any graphics in, stop and if you're doing a rapid site, you're not going to take weeks to figure it out, but stop and take just 15 minutes and literally just scratch out, I want these menuing options, I want my logo to be here, and I want, I picked this theme, I want these pictures to be this and these images to go here. Little things like that, once you start to build, will keep you from getting stuck and having to rebuild everything all over again. Just look at the theme, look at the sample theme that you bought, and figure out where you would want your stuff to go. And that will save you hours of pain. Just 15 minutes up front.
Sounds like a 15-minute blueprint.
It is, and people typically will forget to do that, or just think they're going to start building from scratch. Just literally taking a few minutes up front will save you so much pain. And it seems like such a simple tip, I know, and I'm sure some will listen and goes, well, yeah, of course, but if you've never built it before or built a site before, you'll realize real quick you can start having to rebuild everything all over again real quick. So, okay. Other things here, and like I said, I kind of went off the slides here. We didn't even go into post and pages, the actual setting up of them. But if you've never done this before, that actually might be important. So I'm going to go to post, and you can see all, like you're literally seeing what's the back end of credit.club here. So you can see I have posts scheduled to post, in, in draft here, getting ready to post in the next few days. I've loaded it up with content ready to go. But let's just pick a post. You can see here when I'm in the site, I can click post. I can see everything that's in here. There's the concept of all my posts. Obviously, that's everything I'm in. Published are things that are actually on your site right now and published, and people are looking at them. Draft are things that you put on your website, but you've not published yet. So you're waiting to hit post on them or publish on them so everybody can see them. This saves me a lot of time. I travel a lot, so I put a bunch of stuff in, and then it only takes me a minute each day to go actually publish them. So it saves you a lot of time. Yes, Adrian, backing up your site, very important and absolutely important. But if you look here, it's literally as simple as hitting Add New when you want to add a post. So on the left-hand side here, I hit Add New, and I won't end up publishing this, but you can see here, it's Add New Post, right? I mean, I literally can go in here and start typing. That's what everybody types when they just want to put in some letters. But let's say I want to bold that text. It's right here, right? I can bold that. This is the text, the code part of it. But if I hit Visual, and I start designing in the visual mode, you can see visual and text here, text being the code level, HTML level I should say, and visual being what are people actually seeing. You can see here I can just highlight and make changes as needed. Maybe I want to make that red, but I'm editing here. You can also see, let's say you want that to be a hyperlink. I can hit the Insert Edit Link. It picks that right there. I can put, just link to credit.club. I can pick a title for it. And do I want this to open a new window or stay in my site? Click that, add link, and I've made that a link now on the page. Okay, so that right there, like I said, you can start to build your WordPress content right there in the post. And like I said, this is if you're doing a blog post or more frequently updated content. Also, you can see here I can pick categories. So within WordPress, let's hit Save Draft. You pick the categories for your content. So I picked categories over here. You can see that in categories, I've set up the categories of content that I have on the site. And then I can add a new category just by typing in the name of it, and then put Add New Category. And that'll add a category here. Then, if I am back in my post, let's go back here and edit that, I can actually select the category I wanted in over here that if it's in that list. So it's another thing as you think about that 15 minutes of thinking in the beginning, the blueprint in the beginning, think about how you want your content organized in categories. Because it's very easy to get that out of control real quick. Don't overdo the categories though either. Right? Don't overdo the categories. Really think about what you want your structure to be and build from there. You can always extend the number of categories you have, but get some basic structure up front. Other things here are tags. This is a way to organize your content as well. I can say, I'm going to tag this content with this, right? And then I can put add, I clicked off too quick. And now when I do this post, you'll see that my content is tagged with that, so it's searchable, and there's tag pages specifically around content like over those topics. And in this case, I can set an image for my post, set featured image. These are the media that I have on the site. I can pick an image, set it, and then it'll be within the post. Now, I'm going to hit Save Draft. Any questions on post real quick? I mean, it's very basic. The way we actually talk to customers is we explain to them, if you can send an email, you can actually add a page to your website. In this case, to your WordPress deployment, if you're doing a domain development of some sort. If you can send an email, you can pretty much add a page or post to WordPress. And hit Save Draft. But the reason I'm stopping now before I publish anything is there's some other things down here that you're only going to see if you're using plugins, which we can go into for a little bit of detail here, I think. But you can see the all-in-one SEO pack. We'll talk about that in just a second. Tiffany, you want to add anything before you want to talk about plugins, or you want me to? Go ahead.
Oh my God. Okay,
go ahead.
So plugins are basically a way to extend your basic WordPress theme or basic WordPress basic WordPress theme, and then there's plugins. Think of them as apps for your smartphone. Anything we want our smartphones to do, we can get a app to do it. Whether we need a special calendar, a special calculator, whatever the case may be, we can customize our phones. That's what these plugins do as well. There are some basic plugins that I think we can share with you guys. We have basically a checklist, and it's got a list of plugins in it that somehow we will get to anyone that wants it.
I'm going to do a little bit of self-promotion here because I actually put that list up on brucemarler.com this week. So.
Okay, well, it's on brucemarler.com. So that's good. I created a little list with all the plugins that I normally use. But since I don't have Tiffany.rcipe.com, it's on brucemarler.com. And so basically it's just a basic pack of ones that I use on every site. From what Bruce is talking about right here, the all-in-one SEO. Critical, extremely critical. There are Google sitemaps that are also critical. There's just some basic ones that I have a list of on there that we use. There are ways to add shopping cart functionality with WooCommerce. That's one of the ones that we use most frequently. But basically just anything you want it to do, I bet somebody else has thought of it before. Whether you're trying to integrate social media, there's many, many ways to do that, different avenues to go, whether it's sharing a specific post that you're trying to do or just connect from business to Facebook. There's ways to do that too. So if Bruce will click on plugins.
Would you like me to give you control?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Basically, like anything else on WordPress, if you're trying to add anything new, then you just hit the Add New button. And from there, you can either upload, if Bruce, yes, maybe you should give me control. Okay, if you upload a plugin, WordPress has made it super great in it right now that you can actually search for a specific type of plugin without having to leave your actual WordPress site that you're working on, which is new. So that's great. If you hit search or upload plugin and search, say we want to look for a calendar. Can you do that, Bruce?
You should have just got control.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Good deal. So we can choose a file that we already have on our computer, just like we did with the theme. We can search plugins here by, let's say, I don't know, I'm just picking something, calendar. It gives us a list of all the available plugins / apps in our more common used words. So basically, you can scroll through all here. They do also have ratings. They also have how many times it's been downloaded. And from here, you can click more details. And it will bring up specific bits of information and screenshots, which I typically tend to look at the pictures to see how it's going to look. How's it going to look on the front end? How's it going to look on the back end? So if I click on that, it shows me what the calendar looks like. It shows my star ratings over here. 10 of them have been 5 stars, but there's also 2 and 1. And basically, if you like what you see, you just hit the Install Now button, and it will install it to your site. So that's really easy. They're all right here. Does anybody have any questions about plugins?
Do you have to, if you're not using a plugin, or say you uploaded one and you're not using it, do you have to delete it? Will that harm your site if you let them all stay there in this batch?
I wouldn't leave them on there for security reasons. I would definitely, if you're not using it anymore, you're not using that functionality, I would delete it, because potentially if you just let it go and it gets very out of date, that it could pose security risks. So I would definitely remove it if that's the case. But you can also deactivate and delete and, decide what you want to do with plugins. You don't have to delete it completely. Say there was some sort of interference with something and you wanted to know if it was a plugin that was causing compatibility issues, you could just deactivate it without having to delete it to see if that solve the problem. So that's one way to troubleshoot, because of course if you're developing websites or designing websites, troubleshooting is your best friend.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a couple of good comments here in the comments as well. And then Adrian, you talk about the compatible with your site, and that's exactly what, just like she was pointing out, and that's something that I think is important to look at, because you start to look at plugins. Sometimes there's older ones that have not been tested with your theme or with the version of WordPress you're using. So pay close attention as you're looking at plugins to make sure that they're compatible. And as was pointed out, uninstall them, move them, do whatever you have to do. It's usually a good way to test and troubleshoot. I've had to do that many times where I just literally went in and we had a site was just breaking, and even uninstalling certain things that would still seem broken, and simply moving a directory completely out or renaming it can make a difference at times. There's a lot of different troubleshooting steps. And the plugins can be problematic, yet they're your best friend at the same time. So also security, there was something mentioned, and there have been plugins, and luckily there's been fixes for them, but I think it was the Revolution slider, and a few, there's been some security issues caused by some plugins that have been out, and it's very important to keep up to date and watch what's happening security-wise, because Google literally started banning certain sites from the listings based on plugins and security holes that have been introduced through the plugins. So it's not something you're going to have to do every second or every day. Don't get scared and overwhelmed by the thought of all that. But it is actually something you do if you have a site getting reasonable traffic and you're doing well with it. It's good to keep up to date and watch and kind of what's happening with the plugins. When there's updates, pay attention to what the updates actually did for it, and keep on top of it. Yeah, exactly. So there was sites that got hit pretty bad. We actually had a customer site that wasn't using Rev Slider, but something that happened some time back that a plugin had introduced a security hole, and we saw in the listings that Google had penalized, or wasn't penalizing, but had noted that the site had a potential issue. So we found the issue and corrected it rapidly. But it is good to keep on top of and watch the updates that are being introduced.
Bruce, before you continue, just for the people out there who are listening, the comments and questions that Tiffany and Bruce are answering, some of them are coming from a chat window. We have a chat window here, and the members are able to actively comment and ask questions. So that's where they're getting those.
Yeah, we're trying to keep up with them, and I apologize if we're missing any, but I think we've tried to hit at some level.
You guys are doing great. You haven't missed a one.
So that's plugins, and I think from a I'll say WordPress 101 standpoint, we've hit a lot of the topics that would go into kind of the intro session. And Tiffany, I don't know if you want to add anything else, but I think as far as an intro session, we probably hit it. What'd be good is if we can talk to Angela. We'll talk to you about doing an advanced session and then start going into some real detail on some of these things too. The questions have kind of given us a good indication of where a lot of people are focused at, and kind of what some of the follow-up sessions could be even.
Oh, that would be great to do WordPress development take 2.
Great.
So
thank you very much.
Definitely. You know what? I really appreciate you guys doing this and doing the demo. What we usually do, this is recorded, so after the session it converts to video and we post it. So everyone gets to go back in and watch it again. They can form more comments and questions if they have some, and they can follow up with us. But let's talk about that. I'd love for you guys to come back and do the advanced class, if you will, for us. It's been great. Does anyone else have any questions? I have the mics on, so if anyone has a question for Tiffany and Bruce, now's a good time.
We did that good. Nobody has a single question.
Well, you know what? Everybody's still in the chat window. They're saying thank you.
Thank you very much.
And they are also expressing, you know, they would really like to see a follow-up session too. What, touching on WordPress multi-site? What was that?
Yep. Yeah, WordPress multi-site allows you to kind of deploy large numbers of sites under WordPress install and manage them from really one key install. So that's a good topic.
Okay. Well, All right, so I think it'd be time for us to just get prepared for the advanced session. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and I will convert this video and post it, and I'll also follow up with the website so that we can all see it. And also, one question I know a lot of people are wondering that hadn't been asked in the chat window: exactly how long did it take you from start to finish to build Credit.club?
I would say if I really had to count the initial setup and build, 4 to 6 hours, and some of that was more of my own doing on laying things out the way I wanted it and putting some custom stuff in the background that's not really here. But I should say when I say that that there's some other topics here that are good to hit on, like text broker, ordering content, keyword research. Credit's a tough one, right? It's a tough keyword and tough topic to rank for.
Right.
So that time includes going to text broker and ordering articles and working with the authors there and things like that as well. And also, another topic we can hit on another day is using tools like Fiverr, which is a kind of a, I'll say, you know, hey, I need this task done, go do this for me real quick, type of thing as well. So there's a lot more than just the site too that kind of extends that. But Fiverr, 99 Designs, text broker were my friend in getting it going quickly. There was a lot that happened behind the scenes there. So.
Well, that's great. Well, that was definitely rapid. Let's see if after the advanced session I could do the same thing.
On the Adrian thing, Fiverr, yikes, yeah, I would agree on, Tiffany will too. I say Fiverr, yikes on a lot of things too, and on the other side, they can be your best friend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true with many services, you know. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm going to wrap it up for us today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all back another time.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you.